What do you think? Where's the exact evidence that you're going to be looking at for when business travel is going to recover?
Well, great. Thanks for having me this morning. I think we start to see that evidence in China. You talked earlier about our recovery trends in China. And while the occupancy levels overall are back to pre-pandemic levels, I think the thing that's most exciting for us, in March, we saw business travel across Greater China actually 5% higher than we saw it in March of 2019. And I think that in many ways creates a roadmap for the shape of the recovery we'll see of business travel around the world.
What are you seeing right now in the United States, though, Tony?
Well, in the United States, we had our second highest occupancy levels. We were just a shade under 50% in the quarter. In the US, it's disproportionately driven by leisure travel at this point, but we're seeing two really encouraging signs that give us a lot of hope about the return of business travel. Number one, we're over 150 million vaccinations as of this morning. And number two, we're seeing real return to the office, which we think will be a big catalyst for the return of business travel. I'm here at our headquarters today in Washington, and I've seen more cars here this morning probably than any day since the pandemic started. And I think that return to the office is going to be a big, big catalyst.
Okay, so let's play that out for a second, Tony. Let's say the business travel really does pick up. Talk to me about your levels of staffing. There are labor shortages sort of everywhere, and we keep hearing all these anecdotes. A, what are you seeing? B, how do you fix it?
We are seeing some challenges with staffing, principally in those markets where we've seen a very rapid return in demand. So for instance, here in the US, markets like South Florida, Texas, Arizona, where leisure demand has really exploded, we've had a bit of a challenge with staffing. We're running job fairs. We're providing some one-time incentives to make sure we can get the hotels staffed.
Do you think, you talk about that being one time, do you think this is going to be something that you're going to have to deal with for a while? We're all trying to figure out whether or not we're going to get sustainable inflation. I guess by definition, inflation is sustainable. But I'm kind of wondering whether or not you think this is this summer problem, or actually it bleeds into the later part of this year and into next year as well.
It's something we'll watch closely. For our business, inflation is a bit of a two-headed coin. On one hand, it creates challenges on margins. On the other hand, historically, inflationary environments allow for very rapid acceleration in our average rates. So we'll watch it closely. Part of the challenge we've had is, unlike prior recessions, the shortening of the booking window creates another layer of challenge for us in terms of staffing our hotels. And then I think lastly, one of the things to watch closely in the fall is our schools opening up in person as we get back into August and September. If they do, I think you'll see more and more parents returning to the workforce.
That's such a good point. So, Tony, also just based on labor shortages for a second, there's a debate as to why, and I'm curious as to if when you're talking to somebody and you want to hire them and they say no thanks, why are they saying that?
Well, most of them aren't saying no thanks. If they are, I think it tends to fall into one of two categories. One, I think they do have some nervousness. They read the paper. They wonder, when is travel and tourism going to come back in a really meaningful way? And two, it's often around childcare. If they have challenges or uncertainty around who's going to take care of their kids, it may give them some pause as to when they'll return to the workforce.
Tony, are you in the position, though, where you can't get the staff to be able to fully take advantage of the leisure demand that is out there?
We've not seen that yet in many of these leisure destinations, particularly drive-to destinations in the US. We've seen occupancies north of 80%. And again, this is anecdotal, but I, as you would imagine, get lots and lots of notes from our guests. And they're really praising our teams. They're saying they're taking wonderful care of us. We feel confident. We feel safe. So I think our teams are really doing a remarkable job given some of the challenges in front of them.
Yeah, some restaurants I've gone to recently, not so much. Tony, on recovery, where have been the surprise demand? Like, we're all expecting things, particularly in the US, to like book up for the summer, but where are some of the surprises that you're seeing right now?
I think we're seeing some really encouraging green shoots in group demand. So obviously we run dozens of big box hotels that historically have run 70, 80% of their demand with big groups. And they've made a very seamless and very effective pivot towards leisure. So you look at the Gaylord hotels, for instance, they really have recovered much more quickly than I would have expected. And it's because they have the facilities and amenities to pivot towards that leisure customer.